let's start. So, today we're going to talk about Fetch API, which probably some of you have encountered yet while doing your code flip project, yeah? Can't remember which task it is exactly, but so has anyone got any idea about what the fetch method does?
I know it's a new way of fetching data from websites or from wherever, from the back end.
Yeah? Why are you saying a new method?
I think fetch wasn't around for a while. It's kind of newish.
Okay.
I think it was more of the full REST API and all this thing that we were using.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's fetch, there's graph.
Okay, so the fetch method allows you to fetch data, to retrieve data from a third-party API or anywhere else. You can do any type of HTTP request that you want, really. So what type of HTTP request do we know?
REST.
Sorry? Get. So you just retrieving data, retrieving information. Post, so that's sending information. Yeah. Those are probably the most important ones. Sorry? Response? No. So you can Google it if you want, yeah? Retrieve that would give it to you. Yeah, so you got get and post, which we mentioned, put, delete. These are probably the most common ones that you've come across before, yeah? So they're named after the action that they're intending to execute, if you like, yeah? So the fetch is a modern replacement for XML HTTP request, which if you're interested, you can look it up on MDN to get more information.
Okay, so rather than using something like SOAP, which might be a bit clunky, so you use fetch.
Yeah.
Fetch is more like
so now, you can use fetch, yeah.
But then that's for only you said only XML requests, only XML based API. XML based APIs like SOAP are the ones that can use fetch, but for REST, you used to use fetch for that?
I'm not sure.
Yes, we use fetch for REST. Yeah, that's what you're doing in your code fix. You're setting up a REST API on your backend in Node, and you're using fetch requests to access the data from there. Yeah. So I think Anaïs will cover a few of the data types a bit later on, and what you can send across a fetch request or retrieve from a fetch request.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not just limited to XML. We can have blobs, we can have mixed data types, we can use other libraries like Malta to handle images and all this sort of stuff. So it's quite flexible.
Okay, so do we know if fetch actually belongs to the core language of JavaScript? What do we think? Maybe?
No, it doesn't.
Got that answer.
The widest answer. No?
No, yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's built in your browser, and that's why it's called Fetch API for that reason, yeah? So it doesn't actually belong to the actual core language of JavaScript. It's built in your browser, and you can transfer data across network, okay? So from client to server.
Sorry, is this fetch? Is it built by any of the big boys, Facebook, Google?
It's a very good question. I don't know who created it.
I'm not sure who first came up with the source code for it, to be honest, but it will be built into all major browsers, but I don't know who wrote the original.
No, because that's what I'm surprised how they were able to get it to. That means must have been one of the major players, maybe Microsoft or some of them, to get it to be on all the browsers.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. I would have to. That's my homework for this afternoon after the workshop, is to look that up.
Before your new job and everything.
Exactly. Okay, so today we're going to work with an open API to practice retrieving data using fetch, okay? So why am I saying open API? Because often when you're using a third-party library, they're asking you for an authorization, yeah? So the one we're going to use today is the Json Placeholder. And they're basically just giving you, they're generating random databases for you. So the one I'm going to use is the user one. Okay, here we go. So what does it look like to you? What type of data type?
Objects.
Yeah.
It looks like an object, isn't it? Okay, an array of objects.
Plus. Woohoo. Yeah. How am I? There we go. No, come back. There we go.
It's an array. ID, name, user, just exactly what we did just now. Quite nice.
Yeah, it looks
So
really
it's-
similar to your JavaScript,
Yeah.
your code data, yeah.
So it's a JSON object, right? What you have here, yeah? So that's what we're going to work with today. Okay. So I'm just gonna go into the DevTool console, yeah? Can't really see, can you? Did you do Control Plus? Oh, you did. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I've created a function. I called it fetch users because I want to do a GET request. I want to retrieve data from my database, my users database. Okay. Here I've got my endpoint. So basically, it's the path of the resource you want the data from, if you like. Yeah?
So endpoint is the path, so it's like the rest/shows, is that the endpoint?
In your Codeflix, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an example, yeah. So if you had an image that was locally saved on your computer, it would probably be something like, I don't know, /rainbow.jpg, whatever, yeah? If it's from a website, then you'll have what I have here, which is basically the URL. Yeah? And then here I've got a .then. Do we know what that does?
Next.
Any idea? Next, can you, yeah, okay, can you develop your idea?
I was thinking like one fetch information, the next one after the other till it's kind of like an if statement, if loop. I'm not sure.
Not quite. So, sorry?
It's the same fetch the data
Yeah.
from the endpoint that bring back the results from where the data's coming from.
Yeah, so it's basically saying, please fetch the data from whatever file or endpoint or path I want the data from, yeah, and then do something else, right? So if you don't have any data, if the result hasn't come back yet, then you can't do anything with it, right? So get the data I'm asking for, and then please do something else, yeah? So that's what we call a promise. you're going to a promise.
A promise.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, is that the promise in JavaScript?
It's one way of doing it. Yeah. So using dot then is one way of handling promises. Yeah. But you're going to cover that in more details later on in the bootcamp, so I'm not going to go too much into that. So fetch is, what type of function is fetch? Now that I've mentioned promises. Any idea?
Promises. Object.
Formative function?
Formative.
So what kind of data is that?
No, what type of function fetch is?
Oh, okay.
So it's asynchronous. Am I pronouncing that right?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So some time passes between you making a request and getting the data you're asking for. Yeah?
So it's asynchronous.
It's asynchronous.
Yes.
So synchronous is you get it immediately, you wait and you see.
Synchronous is when everything can happen in parallel, right? But here you have to wait to get some information before you can do anything with it. Does that make sense? Any questions so far, or are we following?
Very clear. Promises. Essentially, we got promises.
Yeah, so the dot then, do you see it on line 3?
Yeah.
You're basically asking the code to wait to get the data before you do anything with it, with that information.
So that's the promise.
Yeah, dot then. Well, it's a way of handling it.
Yeah, so fetch will return a promise. Yeah, it won't return the data straight away. It will return a promise or an IOU. I will fetch this data soon.
You wait for me.
Yeah, wait for me basically. Yeah, that's why it's asynchronous. Once that promise has been resolved, the data has appeared, then we can run the function that is after the .then method. Yeah.
Display result.
And if we had some other code on line 7, for example, that code would run before the stuff inside of the .then. Because the promise is asynchronous, or the fetch method is asynchronous, it will wait until it's resolved before running the code inside of it. And it will give other code the opportunity to run before it. Yeah, this stops us blocking things in our program and really slowing our application up.
So you can have as many different methods when you say after line 7.
Yeah.
Go through all of those until every.
We'll go through all of them within the same function, yes, before trying to resolve the others. It gets queued in a separate task queue under the hood in the browser. Yeah. As I say, as Anaïs said, we'll cover this a lot more week 6. That will like be our asynchronous week. But for now, we just want to introduce the ideas at least and show you how we can make network calls. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So whenever you're using the fetch API, you will always have sort of 3 major steps. Yeah. So you will call fetch. Yeah. As an argument, your fetch will have the path of the resource or the file you want to get data from. Then you will need to deal with the response or the result. You can call result however you want, but it's sort of the conventional name, yeah? And then you will need to do something with your data. So your data can be obviously text. You may have come across blob as well, which is basically any other type of media. like
Sorry,
image
to
or
come
something.
across what?
Dot blob. So like that. So if you're dealing with an image, for example, you will use dot blob. Yeah. Or in a
goes when it's kind of a multimedia file.
yeah, any media that's not basically text and a JSON object. Yeah. So I'm just gonna run that code and see what it does. Okay. So that's currently our response. Yeah. So it doesn't really look like the document that I've shown you earlier. Okay, I'm looking to get that. So what do we know what I'm missing in my code to get the actual user details?
Is the argument is the same as the other URL?
Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, the endpoint, because I want to fetch data from a third-party library or website. That's the I'm using a URL in this case. Yeah. So if I click on the body here, it's telling me readable stream.
Tell you any more about that or
Hmm?
not? Does it tell you any more?
No, I was
Drop it down.
expecting it to say.
There's a little drop down arrow. And that's what will let you.
You mean under the body? Oh, yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Is that still registered?
Any idea, guys?
No.
No.
Result of endpoint?
Result what?
I'm wrong when I saw that.
No,
I was
no.
thinking more like an object. I was thinking more like a dot endpoint.
No. So currently I need to basically deal with the result that I got, right? And what type of data type are we dealing with?
Object.
And yeah, a JSON object, that's right. Yeah. So here I'm gonna use that .json. So that basically allows you to read the data stream or to pass the data stream. Yeah. So if I run it again, this time I'm getting something that looks more like my database. Yeah. So you're getting the ID of the user, name, etc., etc. Okay. If you had text here, you could have .text. If you had an image, which we were talking earlier, you would have .blob.
It's an array of objects.
It's an array of objects, yeah. Okay. Any questions, or can we go to the next part of the workshop? You good? All right. So let's see how we can use fetch in a React application. Okay. So all I want to do, if I can find my application, it's here. I just want to display in there, I want to display the details for each user. I don't have anything yet because I want us to code it together. Okay? So I want to retrieve the data from my database there and display it in my React application. All right? So all I've done so far is I've got a constructor, a super, I've initialized a state to an empty array, and I've created a function called fetch users. Okay? So, based on what we've done so far, how will I retrieve data from my document, from my JSON object?
We need to specify the endpoint.
Yeah. And what method do I use? What?
What method?
Fetch.
Yeah, fetch.
Endpoint, which is www.
So what's my endpoint in that case? What type of endpoint are we dealing with?
URL.
Yep, that's right.
HTTP.
Yep. I'm just gonna grab this one here. Okay. What next?
We need to.
Do you need to use .then method?
That's right. Yeah, right. So I'm gonna have a dot then.
Result function.
Mm-hmm.
Result function.
So it's giving me a response. What do I need to do with that response?
JSON.
Yes. Yeah, JSON. Oops. And then I'm just missing one more step. So now we have our response, right? And we need to pass that data into our state. So how do I do that?
This is it.
What's that? Forward? Yeah. And then what?
URL.
No. So in the first one, you're saying that you want to retrieve data. You're saying that you want to pass that data stream or read that data stream, and then now we want to pass that data into our state to update the state of the users, right?
So it's our function. I mean, so it's our data source.
It's no response. This is
Did you say Siri? What did you say down there? No, obviously not.
So there's
I heard someone say it.
yeah.
That's something.
I was thinking about this state, isn't it? Because we were trying to change it this state.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna use this dot set state. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we have some data, okay, and then we're gonna use this dot set state. And what do I do with it? So I want to update the state of my users, which I've initialized to be an empty array so far. And I want to pass the data that I'm currently reading on line 14. I want to pass it into my users to change its state. No? Users. Colon. Data, yeah. Cool. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, obviously. All right. Anything else that I need to do? Those of you who have done task 21 or 22, can't remember, where do you use your fetch method?
Oh, use effects or component in that.
That's right, yeah.
That's last case.
And so what am I going to do with my function? How do I pass it into the component did mount? So we've created our function fetch users, within which we're making a get request, yeah, and we're handling the results. And I want to pass that function here, fetch users, into my component did mount. How do I do that? Yeah, it's post lunch. No, so I've got.
It's just a function that's in the same
Yeah.
file, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know how to call functions that are in the same file?
Yeah.
Oh, fetch users.
Yeah.
With the bracket.
Just need something else because we're in a class.
Oh, constructor super.
What? No. You guys are making it way too complicated right now for yourself.
Component in mounts.
Get
Oh,
users.
return.
No, look here. Okay, I've created a separate function, right? Within which I'm using the fetch method, I agree. Okay, so I'm retrieving data inside that.
Yeah,
But I want all of that function, fetch users, okay, so all of that to be passed into my component did mount.
Fetch user, that's it.
Okay, fetch users like that.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Return fetch users.
Fetch users is not defined. How do I deal with that? How do I deal with that error?
These dots.
Yes, this dot fetch user. There we go. We got there in the end.
To be fair, it's not a pattern we've used much, but in
No.
large-scale applications you will use this a lot, right? You'll just define lots of functions all over your file and we'll be able to call one function inside of another, right? That's all we're doing.
Alright, so let's see if that works. Yay! Confetti time, as Ricardo would say. Woo. Okay. Cool. So yeah, just to show you the rest, yeah. So here, what am I doing? Hang on, I'm gonna.
Create a dynamic variable.
Create a dynamic variable, that's a good statement as well, isn't it? Isn't the variable always dynamic? Is that not in the name? The variable varies, right?
So I'm using.
Sorry, a value that const is a value that can be changed as well by that set.
Okay.
Review the first workshop that I've done first week. No, I'm joking. No, but what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Yes, I'm using a const variable. Why do I have curly brackets around all of that?
Is it
Because
variable? Is it
it
function?
should be a let, isn't it? If it's a count, that means you can change it.
Because it's JavaScript.
Because it's JavaScript.
No, but
Okay,
it wasn't the joke.
let me actually.
Again, you're not wrong.
Let me get rid of that, right? I'm gonna get rid of that line. Is my code going to work now? No. What is it that I would need to make this work?
You need these dots as
No.
Oh,
I don't know why I can say.
No.
ID.
Nice, remove one line. How do you make it work?
You need to call something.
You need that line, yeah.
I'll tell you what you need to do. Use a .id.
That's right. Thank you, Ahmed. Okay, user.id,
So you,
and then I will need to do user.name and then user.username. Oh my god, you know, I'm a lazy developer, therefore I'm destructuring. That's right.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah, go back.
Object destruction, man.
I was trying to remember what it is.
Did you say object destruction? What? I'm losing it as well now.
Just press Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z.
Nah, don't learn that way, Albert.
She's not that lazy.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And I'm using .map. I'm basically saying, please, for each user, can you display the name, the username, the email, right? Okay. Is there any question so far? No? Right. I'll just mention one more thing. So, if you wanted to handle errors in your code, one way to do it is to use the method .catch here. Yeah, you've gone across that before? Okay. So because I'm working with React, I would need to initialize a state for my error. I'm going to set it to null for now. And then I'm doing it after this block of code. Okay? After this one. So if an error happens while you're doing all of that, trying to retrieve data and handling the promise and the response and all of that, then your .catch, your catch method, should be able to tell you where the error happened. So if you misspell something, for example, in the URL or, you know, something like that. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it on my
Where's
side.
the little error in that code though?
I think it's at the top. Not in there. At the top where the error was.
Some catchy stuff.
It's where the semicolon is.
Yeah, nice.
Oh,
What
yeah.
line there?
First one, was it 6? 16.
16 or 17?
It's 16.
It is 16, yeah.
Because you're killing it for me, it's got catch. Not killing it, so.
Yeah, so we didn't do it much this morning, did we? But with method chaining, obviously you can't have any extra dots or semicolons or anything in it, and that's what we're doing for each of these methods, right? Fetch, then we chain on a then to transform the data into JSON or extract the JSON data. Then we chain on another then to set the state, and then finally we chain on a catch. But if we got an error at the very first stage, would line 15 and 16 still run? Or only 17? Or none of them? Or what's going to happen?
It's not going to compile.
Not going to compile. No, there's nothing wrong with the code, so it will compile.
What was the question?
After the semicolon.
If we encounter an error when we try and fetch the data from the network, will line 15 run? 16? 17? None of them? All of them? But what will happen?
If you put an error fetching, no, it's not going to run. You will see line 17, and then it will tell us what the error is. That's what I figured out.
So you're saying 15 and 16 won't run, are they? And 17 will. Is that what you're saying?
It will.
Should we?
I think I'll say the same thing as well.
What?
Because no. What I'm saying is because if because you're sending the response and if you're not getting it, you're sending the request and if you're not getting the response back, then 15 and 16 can't run. Then you get an error because you're not getting any response back.
Okay.
It should all run.
Oh, but they're all run.
Or except or nothing runs as well because you're not getting any response back. But I think you should get an error if there's a problem with the Slack.
What if it runs but it doesn't have the data? And then
That's what it's
comes to
Yeah,
the
that's what the error is meant to see. You actually transfer the data across.
So now we're saying 17.
So it runs everywhere, but the error is you see
Well,
the actual data.
Alright, so let's put this out of our misery. You want to do it now? It's like-
What do you want to do, sorry?
So I'm just asking, trying to get their understanding of the catch block, right?
Mhm.
When does it run?
just the fetch mistake, mistake. Remove the S, the last S. Just
No,
so that
that's
it
the
doesn't
website.
fetch.
So
This is
if,
the error.
Oh,
if you encounter an error anywhere along that chain, whether it be in the fetch, in one of the thens, whatever, right? Wherever the code was at, it will skip all the subsequent then statements because you've got an error and go straight to the catch block. Which is essentially what Ahmed said. So if line 14 throws an error, then it will skip your two .then statements and just run the code inside of the catch block.
Correct.
That's not because it hasn't got a response, it's literally because an error was thrown, right? And a catch is looking out for that error. Even if you had a console.log on a line 15 inside of a then statement, that will get skipped and it will go straight to the catch block. Yeah. So it's really important, yeah, to have error catching code inside of
Will
your
that be an interview question?
promises. It might be, it very might be, yeah.
So it just done the job.
It wasn't confident. He turned back and said, no, don't put him It wasn't too confident.
Um,
I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Just trying.
Yeah. Anything else, guys, or good to go?
Can you do it?
it's the same, but this won't be contained big now.
It should be the same.
Well,
It's not.
it wouldn't be quite the same because you will be sending information from your side, yeah? Right? No. Well, never mind.
Sorry.
Do you want to do a post request or
Why are we still using
do you want to do post request? Well, we can't really do that because I don't have any database stuff.
Yeah. So obviously there's another really common use of fetch, and that's not to use a GET request, that's not to request data, it's also to send data, right? So we mentioned it briefly the other day when we were talking about HTTP requests, and we named a few of them. We said GET was one of them. What was another really common one?
Post.
Post. Yeah. So fetch can be also used to post. Sounds a bit weird that we're using fetch to post things, but you can use any HTTP request with the fetch method. You just have to add an extra argument where we've just got one argument there and it's our URL or our path. We can add another argument that has a method inside of it, and we can set that method to whatever HTTP request we want. So we have method post for a post request. We could of course set method get, but that is the default, so we don't need to set it in this case. We will look at that maybe the end of this week, if not the very start of, I think it's scheduled for Friday, basically, when we're sending data from a form to the backend, right? So we'll look at how to do a post request also with get. Because I know you're all really looking forward to that.
For what?
Thank you for what?
So looking forward to hearing that.
You
I think it's time to abandon the
Yeah.
workshop, but yeah, we will look at post requests using fetch on Friday.
Anyway, if you want to practice doing GET requests with fetch, I would just really recommend to just play around with it. Yeah, just build like a few line of code like I did. It honestly doesn't take long, and I mean once you've done one fetch request, it's always the same anyway. Use fetch once, it's always the same syntax and stuff anyway.
This can help
But
those guys in
the more you practice it, the easier it will become, obviously. So I'll just, I'll put that link on Slack this afternoon, okay?
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last one.